Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We have a special guest today, Matt Enns. This is the second time or third time you've been on here?
Second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From The Sovereign Man, you got a new book out. Well, I don't know if it's out yet or not.
It's out.
But it's on my desk.
Long story, but it is out, yeah.
What do you mean long story? Well, we'll get to it.
Well, it was supposed to be released like in a couple weeks, but they ended up releasing it on Amazon early by accident, so it's a big fiasco, but you can buy it.
What was the fiasco? Or would you rather not say?
Well, the shipping time was until now like 2 weeks. Everyone was all confused because they're printing them on demand, but now they're in the warehouse. So you can order them and get them quick. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, that's good. Who's your publisher?
9 Tries out of the UK.
9 Tries. I'm not familiar with them. What are they?
Smaller publishing house.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really easy to work with. Just, yeah, fantastic.
Now, you guys are from Canada.
We are.
That's not technically the United Kingdom. It's something else. What is
Correct.
it? What's it called? Because you're part
do
of
you
the English body.
Oh, Commonwealth?
Still. The Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Did
Still
they put Charles
yeah,
on your fucking money yet?
and I don't think so. But we grew up, yeah, the Queen on everything.
That's weird.
Yeah. So we're still we're a constitutional monarchy, something. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's all symbolic.
Constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's most constitutional monarchies, actually. But,
Yeah.
At any rate, that's not super interesting. Tell me, but for those that didn't see the first episode, let's talk about The Sovereign Man and what it is and how you got into it.
Yeah. So we can tell the long story or the short story. Short story is Whitney and I, my beautiful wife, sitting over here watching us.
Creepy, yeah.
Creeping on us. Yeah, as always. I bring my own audience. We went through a hard time in our marriage, and coming out of that, I figured out some things to actually heal the marriage. We lived apart separately for 6 months after years of a really difficult time. So we were like over. And all the therapy didn't help. The relationship books didn't really resonate with me. The active communication and active listening didn't land. And I figured out some things that actually worked. And then I just kept thinking, man, other men need to know this. I don't want them to have to go through what I went through. So we made a crazy decision to leave Canada, move to Texas, sell my finance business, and start this company to save as many families as we can from ending up in the place where that we almost ended up in.
Well, let's do some diagnosis, I guess. What was the impetus, I guess, of the difficult times you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, I could give you 1,000 reasons, but like broadly speaking, men and women don't know neither party in a marriage knows the role that they're meant to play in marriage anymore. Like, what's a man supposed to do in marriage? What's a woman supposed to do in marriage? We kind of threw away the characterized version of the 1950s marriage that we all think is stupid. And then we didn't replace it with anything. So it's like, well, we don't really know what we're each supposed to bring to the marriage, but we're just going to kind of try to get through it without really defining what we each do. And it's like having a business relationship where you don't actually know what each of you is supposed to do. It's not going to work, right? So that was probably the bottom line. And then on top of that, you have, not that I've ever been a feminist, nor Whitney has really particularly either. We all kind of absorb passively the feminist ideology because it's in everything we watch, everything we see, all of our news, movies, etc.
85% of primary educators are women.
Yeah, right from preschool through elementary school through high school through university even. And so whether you are against feminism or for it, like, you were defined by it, and you carry some of that into your relationship, and it basically means some version of like, if you have an opinion, if you have boundaries, if you have even needs and desires on some level, you're misogynistic as a man. And so men kind of take the back seat. Doesn't work for men, obviously, also doesn't work for women. They end up not respecting the men. And then conflict builds, resentment builds. And when it builds for long enough, people end up splitting, which is why most marriages end in divorce.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this before, about the rate of divorce versus the rate of actually content or happy marriages.
Yeah.
Those are two different numbers. We'll get into that in a sec. But the same thing that happened in depolarizing relationships has happened in the entire health space, right? From diet and exercise to social psychology, like which I think are the three primary keys to being a healthy human being. So with diet, for most of human evolution, it was difficult to find fat and sugar. So we gravitate towards it. Our body craves it, and as a result, dopamine rewards us for getting it. And now it's plentiful, so we stuff our fat faces with it all the time. And unfortunately, it takes a long time for the adverse reaction to kick in, because you can live feeling less than good for a long time before it becomes a problem. You know what I mean? The same thing with fitness. We used to have to move around. Things like obesity and gout were a rich man's disease, and most people were not exposed to it. Now, there are quite a few more poor people who are obese than there are rich people because of shitty foods and then obviously not moving around as much. So the same thing has happened in our social sphere. The roles and responsibilities of the average adult human being have changed so much that you're no longer naturally in a position to just be a dude or be a woman, right? And then we didn't do much in the way of fixing that problem. You know what I mean? Like, we threw the baby out with the bathwater, I guess you could say.
Yeah, like I kind of look at it that in the industrial age, our bodies atrophied. And in the digital age, our souls and our psyches have atrophied, and we don't know who we are. We don't have any inner power. We don't bring a whole lot to the table because we're just very passive, right? You can order food with a button. You can get more fat and sugar than 99.9% of your ancestors could in about 4 minutes with about $4. And so there's not a lot of natural pressures forcing us back into a natural path and a natural state of being. And so we're in this very, very artificial state of being, trying to make natural biological relationships function. And it's too complex for two people to figure out on their own without a framework.
Yeah. And then, so I talked about dopamine a little bit, but all of the hormones that are biologically designed to guide you in the right direction, we're not interacting with them in the appropriate way anymore. We prioritize dopamine, obviously, because it feels good, and it feels good now, which is nice. But for some reason, we thought because women now make money that the archetype of the provider is no longer something that men should strive for, right? And that's obviously stupid, but I understand it, I guess, to some degree. And the bigger problem is that one of the ways that, and it's not the only way, but being sexually attracted to each other in an intimate relationship is very important, right? Your body needs it, and it needs it not just day to day, but it needs it over time. And both sexes tend to sexualize things like that, right? Like when a woman does something that's feminine, it will make a man want her, and vice versa when a man is being manly. And we thought maybe, since she makes more than me, how can I be manly for her? But that's a fucking retarded thing to say, to be honest, right? I mean, that on its surface, I guess, if you just learn what all these words mean, you might see that there might be a problem, but really this is a pretty easily solvable situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, like if you make more money, it might make everything easier for you if you make more money than your wife. But if you don't, there's about 15 other categories that are available to you to outperform in, right? And I know, clients who've worked with, friends, where the wife earns 10 times more than him, but on an emotional level, he's very masculine. On a stability level, he's very masculine. On a creating structure in the home level, he's very masculine. And so that masculine-feminine dynamic is super, super healthy in their relationship, irrespective of their incomes. It's kind of, if you want to make things really kind of superficial and just easy to grasp, you can say it's about making more money. It's like, well, no, that's one of many signals that you are a provider. It's not the only signal.
Well, yeah, that's like, if things are dangerous, I could just build a castle and never leave it. Yeah. And that solves the problem technically, but it also limits your experience quite a bit. And is that what you want? I would say the answer is very clearly no to that.
Yeah. And that's kind of on a societal level, how we handle every problem. It's like, well, let's see if we can become completely removed from the problem rather than becoming strong enough to handle the problem. And it produces a very different person.
Yeah. I like to say that weight never gets lighter, you just get stronger. You know what I mean? That's how life works. And the ultimate version of insulation is resilience. Because I think Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff said in The Coddling of the American Mind, prepare your children for the road, don't prepare your the road for your children, right? Because the second one you can't do. You just can't plan for everything all the time. But a flexible and strong, resilient person can deal with pretty much anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's two ways with dealing with challenge or danger, right? One is to just try to avoid it at all costs. The other is to get strong enough for it. And like looking at health is a really good example of this. There's some people that try to avoid getting sick by avoiding other people and by sanitizing everything. And there's other people who try to avoid getting sick by, licking doorknobs. Because if I can expose myself to as much of that as I can become strong enough to handle whatever comes next.
Yeah, there's probably some middle ground where you're not licking doorknobs, I would imagine.
There's probably middle ground.
Yeah.
Illustrating a point.
But yeah, I think learning, so for a dude, we've reduced the idea of provision down to stuff, maybe. And I still think there's an element to that. It might not be that you make money, but you can hunt, right? And I think there's something very primal about a woman seeing you put meat on a table that you killed yourself. I don't know if that's true for every woman, but all the women that I know it is. It's why I like this is, I guess, not a typical show for us. We talk about culture and politics, I guess. But I think that rebuilding the American family is paramount, or just the Western family. It's not even just about us. Is paramount to making sure that our culture and countries persist into the future. Otherwise, we're falling apart right now, right? This is one of the first steps to repairing that. And I think I try to get as many people into hunting as possible. A lot of people like guns and stuff, and they just don't hunt. It's like, you just go one time a year. Go one time a year. And if you're having trouble getting it done, there's plenty of help out there. My buddy Bill Thompson, I don't think you guys have met yet, but you will eventually. He runs this company called Spartan Forge. It's a veteran-founded hunting and mapping application that's built to give hunters, especially new hunters, but even really experienced guys, unmatched precision in the field, right? So they use all this geospatial intelligence that they've gathered from public universities that tag animals and stuff so they can track herds, and then LiDAR for elevation-related stuff, all of the public weather service stuff. It all comes into this AI app, UAV imagery, all this stuff. Comes into this AI app, and it can tell you pretty much the best place to go sit and wait for something to walk through your path so you can kill it. You know what I mean? So there's
Very cool.
It's fucking sweet, and it's not super expensive either. And it also has this thing called Cyber Scout, which is basically ChatGPT, but for let's say Republicans. It'll tell you the way to make a SOP mod M4 or whatever. Not that you know what that is, but my audience definitely knows what that is because they've seen Black Hawk Down. It'll tell you about gun regulations, hunting stuff. If you ask gun-related questions to any of these other LLM, large language models, a lot of times you're going to get these weird, I can't answer that or whatever the fuck, Spartan Forge is not like that. So the point of all of that is that just like with your stuff, and I'm going to circle back to it, there's so many tools out there now. We did go through I don't know if it was a dark period, it was definitely a gray period where there weren't a lot of resources. There was a couple of voices in the wilderness, Warren Farrell was out there talking. He was on Oprah, he was on all the shows, but he's a Democrat and he's old. So people are like, this guy doesn't know anything about being a man. I've spent time with this man around his wife, and he's just like a dude. He just happens to be really smart, you know what I mean? But he was a voice in the wilderness back then. Now, luckily, there's a lot more people that are getting into this and trying to help, especially men, because if you solve that problem at the top, then the female problem becomes quite a bit less extreme. The problems that they have. Now we can start, we as men can focus on them and help them out as well. And it's good that the sovereign man exists. So tell us what, the average couple comes in and they're having trouble communicating. How does that work for you? I'm sure there's some kind of data collection at first. download, and then you address some issues. And it's bespoke for everyone, obviously, but
Yeah. Yeah. And it depends, are they working with me or a coach or a group program or just the coursework? There's all these options, right? But the process is kind of the same. And the first thing before we do anything is we go through what a lot of the book goes through, which is, hey, here's how women operate differently in a way that your dad and society never taught you. Through a male lens, so you can actually understand it, right? Here's why fights go off the rails and you don't understand why they go off the rails and why she seems illogical, even though you know she's really smart. Here's why she says she feels unsafe, even though in your mind you've never made her feel unsafe. Here's what she actually means when she says X, Y, Z. And once men have kind of a basic understanding of, oh, okay, now I get how she's different. Now I get why things go off the rails. Then you can go, okay, let's deep dive the relationship with this new knowledge. And usually at that point they go, and they'll get kind of white in the face and they'll go, oh my God, like no wonder she's leaving me. Like, of course she is. This makes perfect sense now. So you kind of deep dive where things went off the rails. And then once you have that information, then you can go back to her and be like, hey, look, I actually get it now. Like, here's where I wasn't showing up with you for you. Here's where I was making you feel unsafe. Here's where I was making you carry the burdens of a relationship in a way that I should have been doing as the man. Here's where I was actually expecting you to be the man, expecting you to lead. And usually that at least opens the door to healing. She's like, okay, this is what I've been looking to hear for a long time. This is what I've been wanting to feel for a long time. He finally gets it. I've been trying to tell him in a way that he didn't understand for the last 5 or 10 years. Finally, he gets it. And then from there, there's another sequence you go through to actually rebuild. But that's kind of the key part that I think is missing in therapy and other relationship books and everything that, we went to, I don't know, 4 or 5 couples therapists. And one, funny enough, like one was like a 50-year-old lesbian. Then the other one was like a 35-year-old gay dude. The other one was like a 27-year-old single girl. And it's like, they don't exactly have the frameworks to say, hey, I've been through what you're going through. And here's how to interpret how the feminine acts in relationship from a male perspective. And then on top of that, therapy from day one with both Freud and Jung was predominantly a female experience, right?
Not just a female. Well, Jung was better about this part, but Freud was 100% in the I've got problems and somebody out there is to blame for it. And it's not me.
No,
it's mom or somebody else, or right? It's he obviously got butt hurt by women early.
Yeah.
He probably had a bad mom or unattended mom, and then he got butt hurt by some girl in high school, and he was like, you know what? Fuck you guys, which we see a lot of that today. Adler, on the other hand, who's quite a bit better as a role model, and the courage to be disliked is one of the best.
Yeah.
But the courage to be disliked is a lot like the Screw Tape Letters. Are you familiar with that? With C.S. Lewis?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how they're alike though.
So it is a treatise on the human condition in a lot of ways. To me, like I found those two.
Okay,
so it's kind of like a fictionalized conversation between an older Japanese professor and his younger student, and he's basically steel manning Adlerian psychology to the kid. So I guess it's a lot like the dialogues between Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. That whole I don't know if any of those conversations actually happened back then. Right. I mean, who knows? But clearly they were written to a point.
They're summaries at the very least.
Yeah, they were written to a very specific point, which is to summarize what a conversation about those things might look like. And I found them all very helpful. But yeah, I think that Screw Tape is obviously written like fiction, and I think that The Courage to Be Disliked is written like nonfiction. It's written like a conversation. So I don't know if you would read it like a story, but to me they read similarly because you're getting a lot of insight into like how people think. And I think that's the most important part of it. I've experienced things in this regard where, one, I learned to sense when the woman is feeling not safe for whether it's because of me or anything else. It doesn't matter, right? Because you're a man. It's your job to fix that, no matter what the fucking impetus was. So when you get to a point where you can sense it, you can cut that shit out real fast.
It's amazing.
You know what I mean?
That's one of the favorite parts of what I do is, a lot of these guys, again, they're not feminists to say the least. I don't tend to attract those kind of clients, but they still are steeped in that paradigm, whether they realize it or not. And so when you start telling them, hey, look, this is actually your job. It's like, well, can't she be an adult? She should. It's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Let's not go into victim mode. Like, just try this. And then they get through 1 or 2 or 3, air quotes, fights. And they come back and they go, holy shit, it lasted 5 minutes instead of 5 days. And it was easy. And they start looking forward to it. And then when they get really good at it, the next time she gets upset, they're trying not to let her see them laughing because they're so unbothered by her emotional state. Yeah. Whereas when they got there, if she was upset, their day was ruined.
Yeah.
Their emotional state was dependent on hers. And then by handling it the way that you just described, now all of a sudden she goes, oh, his emotional state is not dependent on me anymore. Maybe I can lean on him.
Yeah.
And then the entire relationship dynamic shifts and they're on a completely different trajectory.
Yeah. Not only do you get like super, like way closer to the person, but also
infinitely.
Yeah. You're also solving that issue for her in moments a lot of times. And a lot of it is just knowing how to, knowing the physiological differences between the two sexes and how that affects your emotional state. So women are on a 28-day hormonal cycle and men are on a 24-hour hormonal cycle, which means that period during the day where you are irritable, that's 4 or 5 days for her, right? And that's just you just gotta deal with it, dude. There's no fucking getting around that. But there are ways to deal with it. Even in like when there are periods of emotional distress, sometimes it could get worse. But that's just, that's the work. That's what you got to do. You know what I mean? And I think you don't have to treat women like they're victims or anything like that. Like it's not coddling necessarily.
No.
It's a lot more. I mean, it's kind of hard to pin down for me sometimes, but it's a lot more forceful than that. A lot of it is just like, hey, like all this stuff you're thinking. That's why I like Adler, because he uses this phrase private logic, which is some stupid shit that only you believe, and it's not, there's no evidence for it, and nobody else thinks that. Like, people fucking think this, and I'm like, no, that's stupid. What you're saying is dumb. You know what I mean? Obviously, you got to say it a little nicer than that. But I'm thinking like, no, that's, and now I can use the terminology like, no, that's private logic. That's what you're saying is not true. So, move on. And then, physically being a little bit more dominant can solve that problem as well. Because again, anxiety for the most part is it is the body's reaction to the condition of being unprepared or unsure, right? So I can't necessarily prepare or make her sure that the thing that she's concerned about is going to work out perfectly, but I can make her sure that it doesn't matter because we'll fucking deal with it.
Yeah, you can make her sure that you are not as anxious as she is.
Yeah.
And if she goes, okay, and this is what guys get wrong, right? She'll start spilling her guts about how worried she is. And the guys will try to kind of knock down logically each of her points one at a time. And all she's experiencing is, I'm trying to get him to see that there's this disastrous problem coming our way, and he is unwilling to see how bad this is. But if you just let her express that and you say, okay, hey, look, I hear you. This is why you're afraid. This is why you're concerned. This is why you think, it's going to go wrong. Here's why I'm not worried. And what you say matters, but it's your emotional presence. And if she senses like, okay, I was kind of like really agitated and worried, and he just stayed still and he stayed calm. He really doesn't seem bothered by it at all. Then she goes, oh, well, if my man isn't bothered by it, he seems really calm. After I kind of threw all this angst at him, maybe it's not as bad as it feels to me. Yeah. Okay, he's got it. He feels certain, even though I'm uncertain. Okay, I can relax, lean on him. And everything shifts right away when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's diffusion almost, I remember there's been times where Candace is working on something or doing something that's stressing her out, and I'll just fucking grab her and just sit there and hang out for a minute.
Yeah. I was very proud of myself when I pulled this off for the first time, but I remember Whitney I don't remember what it was about, but she was worried about something, stressed, and kind of getting more and more amped up. And I kind of like let her express it, but I wasn't really getting through to her. And so eventually I just went over, grabbed her and squeezed her, said, you need a hug. And she was like trying to kind of squirm and being like, I don't want a hug right now. I gotta tell you. And I just kind of kept hugging her until she kind of started relaxing. And then I picked her up like a baby, and I started kind of like in a joking way, like rocking her back and forth, being like, it's okay. And then kind of broke through it all. She started smiling, then started laughing. It's like, boom, emotional state shifted. And instead of me absorbing the angst, she absorbed the calm. Yeah. And then the problem evaporated, and we got to have an amazing evening together instead of what could have turned into maybe a tense evening or some disconnect.
Yeah. And it's not always easy.
No, that's why I said I was proud of myself, because you can try that 10 times in a row and not get anywhere with it. It's an art more than a science. I call that black belt level. I don't teach that to my guys until they've been there for a while.
No, but it's about consistency, just like anything else in life. If you consistently show up like that, the whatever meter it is that's elevating it doesn't rise as high after a while, and then it's a lot more manageable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're not trying to infantilize women like they're children that can't handle themselves. This is just they have their emotional state is a lot more, I guess, flexible because of their hormonal cycle, just the way it is, man.
And also because, there's been a few 100,000 years of evolution in our current form, never mind the evolution before that, where our job was to go get in between them and danger, right? Their job was not to get in between us and danger, right? So we have a very different approach to threat, right? Like their approach to threat on a biological level, even if you're, a woman making $1 million a year and you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner like my wife is, and you're a badass, the biological drive to have a man in between you and danger is still there. Even if you don't consciously acknowledge that, it's still there. But you said consistency, and Whitney was nodding along. Whitney works with a lot of women, obviously, but she works with some of our men as well. And the first thing she always tells them is like consistency. It's like, if you show up as you're supposed to show up 8 times in a row, and then on the 9th time you blow your top and lose your cool, and you show that you're not stable, you're not actually dependable, you can't be leaned on. It's like you've undone those 8 times prior.
Yeah, and you also have to, like, I mean, it's a fine line, because you want to be calm and steady and attentive and all this stuff that she needs, but you also every now and again have to flex a little bit, I guess. Like, if she crosses a line, you should let her know that she's crossed the line, right? Like, I'm having a rough day and she's being a dick about it. I'm like, hey, well, I didn't do this when you were having a rough day, right? But then immediately go back to where you were before, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very useful to certainly lean into her needs more than your own, because as men, we're just kind of built that way to serve other people, especially our women, but. Also, if she steps over the line, that's like, one, it's a signal of something, right? Frustration or whatever. Usually it's a signal that you need to be a little bit more aggressive in the bedroom, I think. But, I guess cases vary on that one, but,
there's truth to that for sure.
I've definitely seen it.
And if you don't think that's true, look at the sexual fantasies of women according to the porn they watch, according to the books they buy. Yeah. It's very, very clear what they're on average attracted to.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't, like, a woman that's challenging you like that, especially if you are consistent, and she's been pretty consistent, but she starts to challenge you. What does that tell you?
It tells you she's looking to find your edge. Because we get a lot of guys.
When you say your edge, what do you mean?
That capacity to say no, to show that you have the capacity for danger, to show that you're not to be fucked with, right? And you don't want to make your wife feel that way exactly, but you want to show her that you're the kind of man that is not to be fucked with, right? Women want to know you have a capacity to handle danger, to be violent. They also want to know it's never going to be directed at them.
Right.
But if they can't sense in you that you have that capacity, the attraction, the respect, the love isn't going to be there in the same way. So how you show that to a stranger at the bar trying to push you around is very different than how you show that to your wife,
right?
Obviously. But yeah, if, most of the guys we deal with are nice guys on average more than assholes. And one of the things we have to coach them through is, hey, she has to know you have an edge, and she will test you and test you and test you and push you and push you and push you until you find that edge. So if you're in if you're in a new relationship, you can show the edge much more quickly. If you are trying to repair a relationship that's already got off the rails, you have to first reestablish safety and then show that you have an edge. And so there's a sequence you have to go through. Otherwise, you damage the relationship. But yeah, generally speaking, until she knows you have a limit where you say, hey, that's enough now, the respect is not going to be there, which means the attraction and the love aren't going to be there.
Right. Yeah. And there's always going to be that moment. But again, not everything is a hard and fast rule. Not everything happens the way that you imagine they would or that you read in a book. But there are a lot of day-to-day things you can do to establish that edge and still be a nice guy. Like, you don't have to walk around with your chest puffed up or anything like that. You can just, like, if you walk around in public with that woman and she's closer to traffic than you are, then you fucked up. Like, that's an easy thing to do. Just don't even say anything about it. Just physically move her to the inside and stand on closer to traffic. So it's simple, right? It sounds silly, but
No, my 12-year-old
anyways.
does that with Whitney when the two of them are out.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds silly that it's not that you should do it. That's obvious that you should do it, but it almost sounds silly how much of an impact it'll have on a woman.
Whether she consciously notices it or not.
Yeah. Stuff like that. Stuff like, being aware in public, because unfortunately women have become aware in public, but they shouldn't have to be. Frankly, like, every dude that's out there should be trying to protect them. Another thing that I do pretty routinely is you get on an airplane, you see a woman of any sort trying to put a bag over her head, you should be involved in that situation, right? And whether it's your woman or not.
It's amazing how thankful, especially older ladies, like they'll be, whatever, like this 72-year-old lady trying to get this big bag down, and everyone's watching her, and you kind of, bump some guys out of the way, like, hey, let me get that for you. They're so grateful, right?
And then usually you'll see other guys starting to do it as well, right? I mean,
everyone kind of go, oh, shit, and then they start asking everybody else.
Like I usually, not usually, but oftentimes it happens really early in the process of boarding, or especially when you're getting ready to get off the plane, because everybody's already in the same spot. And if you do that, you'll see 5 or 6 other dudes do it for other people.
Same as giving somebody a seat on the bus or something.
Yeah.
As soon as you do that, all of a sudden, within the next 5 minutes, 3 other dudes are going to get up and offer a woman their seat at the same time.
I mean, it shows you how contagious psychology is, especially. I mean, that, like,
nobility.
Whether you think you could be the lowest employee at a small company, but when you're out in public, you can still behave that way, and that makes you a leader. You know what I mean? And regardless of what else is going on in your life, the woman in your life is going to see you as such. If she notices that behavior. Yeah,
and there's a million things you can do. Like, one of the things I get guys to do, especially if they're, kind of on the passive nice guy side of things, is like, hey, go take up a sparring martial art. Doesn't matter what it is, jiu-jitsu, boxing, judo, kickboxing, Muay Thai. And just the fact that your wife knows you're doing that will shift the relationship dynamic. Right? There'll be this small innate awareness. Oh, this is a guy who does hard things. This is a guy who can handle himself. This is a guy who puts himself in tough situations on purpose. It completely shifts the relationship dynamic. So whether it's walking on the outside when you're near a road, helping with bags, doing that. Another really simple thing to do is protecting your own time. Like, hey, I'm going out with my buddies. I'm going to do jujitsu. I have priorities in my life that are outside of this home. That's a signal that you are somebody who protects the things that matter to you.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's a good way, like, you should certainly, women don't want dudes with no friends and no hobbies. If they do, then there's something wrong with them, to be honest. Like, really, emotional attachment issues there. But definitely doing that kind of stuff signals. I mean, these are like social signals that he's a high status individual as well, if you want to get that deep into it, right?
Or at least that he's competent.
Yeah. And you really don't want to come off as incompetent or low status to the people in your life.
And it really doesn't matter. I was talking to my group a week or two ago, and we were talking about how to be respected. And one of the things I mentioned, like you just alluded to, was having a hobby. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I remember when I was first dating or maybe first married, like, I was really into ants, like studying ants, and I would like catch queens and like raise colonies. Is that a manly thing to do? No. Is that like a super attractive hobby? No. Is the fact that I had a hobby, I had a passion, I had knowledge that other men didn't have, I showed that I could get good at something, that I could learn about something, that I could progress, that I could develop a skill. Those were all signals of competency, right? So is my ability to take care of ants, does that mean that I could, kick the ass of somebody who breaks into our house at midnight? No. But is it a signal that I am capable of achieving competence and pursuing things with discipline and
Right.
with passion? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Right. So even if it's painting Warhammer 40K, another nerdy hobby I used to have, these are all still signals. Oh, this is a guy who has interests, who wants to pursue things, who has passions, who can get good at things.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it. Now, if it's jiu-jitsu or rock climbing, is that probably going to be more attractive than Enns or Warhammer 40K? Yes, it is.
Depends on the girl, I guess.
Depends on the girl.
Yeah.
Totally. But there's still signals of the ability to get competent.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely a lot to that. Like whatever it is that you serve most, you have to understand that all the other things you do are facilitators for that thing, right? Like we don't work out just to do it. We do it because we want to be healthy and capable. Obviously, we don't learn new skills just for the hell of it. We learn new skills to be more capable as well, and capable for what is the question. And it's a hierarchy. It starts with your family and moves on from there. I mean, our goal is our genetic goals, like all living creatures' genetic goal, is to pass their genetics as far into the future as possible. One of the ways you do that is to have kids, obviously. Another way to do that is to build a functional society, right? And another thing to do is to build a functional society with good culture that persists into the future. That's the apex, actually. That's the most you can do as a human being, is contribute to your society and culture to make sure that it persists, such that your DNA can move as far into the future as possible. And
Yeah,
this
and
is a
not
big
just your
part of it.
DNA, but like you said, your culture, your
Yeah, yeah.
ideas, your beliefs, your morality, your
Well, I
legal systems.
I think that is in your DNA, to be honest, in
I
a
agree.
large way.
I agree.
Like, why does a wolf wake up knowing how to be a fucking wolf? You know what I mean? There's genetic memory is a real thing. There's plenty of studies on this stuff. They're a lot more woo than most people would be comfortable with, I guess. But there's good
I'm very
research on
comfortable.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, well, yeah. Why does a wolf hierarchy function differently than an ant colony hierarchy?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, because of the circumstances of their
Their environment
ancestors.
and
You
their
know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah.
Like, there's no reason otherwise. They have these very well established hierarchies, and if wolves went extinct from an area and a couple of made their way back over there, they would create literally the identical colony that they had before without any real differences. So there's certainly something to that, and that should be our job. And then a part of creating these things that persist is this process of preparing yourself, selection, and then maintenance, right? Those are kind of the three things that I see. And we haven't done a great job of preparing ourselves because we didn't know that we needed to for a long time. We just thought, well, my dad did this and my grandfather and great-great-great-grandfather all did this stuff. It should just come naturally. That's not true. It came naturally then because nature forced it to. And I'm not sure they did a great job of it back then either, to be honest. But it's circumstance forced us into these things, and then it stopped forcing us, and we thought we were just going to be okay.
Well, and the things you do with your time do shape the way that you think. And again, not to be that guy who always talks about jujitsu, but I think it's really important. Like, if you are doing jujitsu on a regular basis, you have to adapt your self-image, your assessment of yourself to reality, because you get tapped out or punched in the face if you're doing something else.
Yeah.
And the more that you do those kind of activities, it shifts your epigenetic expression. It shifts the way that you think. And if you are sitting in an air-conditioned office all day and then going to an air-conditioned condo and ordering Uber Eats, those environmental pressures that activate the highest version of you, the strongest version of you, the most healthy, natural version of you, they're not going to be there.
Yeah.
And you are going to be a lesser version of yourself, and you're going to function on a lesser level hormonally, socially, psychologically, and intellectually. Like the way that you think about ideas. I saw this study. It was a relatively small study, and something that obviously, for political reasons, is not studied very much. But they gave a bunch of guys with low testosterone, TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, and on average, their political beliefs shifted right.
By a wide margin.
By a wide margin. And you look at the fact that our testosterone levels are down, depending on who you believe, 50 to 70% over the last 50 to 70 years. We're biologically malfunctioning as men because we don't have those natural stressors that we're meant to have to develop.
Yeah.
And it's having enormous societal effects.
Yeah, it's doing, but there's a lot of, again, simple ways to deal with this shit. And they're not always super intuitive. So the cold plunge thing has become pretty popular. And while a lot of people throughout throughout human history have done that sort of stuff, primarily in the Nordic regions. And a lot of people did cold baths because they were poor, didn't have the ability to do everything they wanted to.
Even just cold shaving.
Yeah, but the cold plunge itself is not something that's super pervasive throughout human history especially not the way we use it, but it is a way that's easy to put your body under stress, right? You put the core of yourself under stress, and it simulates some of the exposure you would get from the environment. Just even a short period, I think like 12 minutes a week total is about where you want to be, 12 to 15 minutes a week. You don't have to go 30 either. It's just like 50 degrees at 12 minutes a week, 12 to 15. And your everything from your thyroid function to all your hormones will drastically improve. So if you're low T now and you haven't gone to a doctor yet, you should definitely get your levels checked. Every dude that can hear the sound of my voice, if you haven't already, you should get your levels checked. We sent Gary to get his done at Waste to Well, and it was like, he's 31. It's like 230.
Yeah.
And he's never been in the military. He's never had head injuries and all that stuff that we all had to deal with. It's just a normal dude, right? Well, he's not normal. He's a fucking retard, but lived a relatively normal life, and his shit's all fucked up just from existing as a human male in America right now. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of stuff. Get your diet straight and get in the cold water a little bit, and then see where you are after that, and then go to the drugs.
Yeah, and get some sunshine, lift heavy things. Try all that stuff before you go on TRT.
Sure. I mean, look at wild pigs.
Yep.
A domesticated pig, you put it back in the wild, and not multiple generations later, but that very pig will start to regrow its tusk, right? So think about what you're doing to your body by being soft. You know what I mean? It's really creating an effect that you don't want.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson related that idea that these environmental stressors will activate you on an epigenetic level and allow you to express a deeper part of yourself. He said that, a lot of these myths and fairy tales that talk about rescuing your father from the deep, from the belly of the whale, that was actually a pre-scientific understanding of that process of accessing your genetic potential by exposing yourself to stressors.
Yeah.
And again, you don't know who you are until you do that. And you can do that in your friggin' bathroom in the shower.
Yeah.
And you can learn that even if and aside from all the physiological benefits, just psychologically, you can learn, hey, my body can be screaming that I'm dying and I don't have to listen. I can remind myself that, no, I'm not actually dying. This is just my body having a stress reaction. And then the next time, to bring the conversation full circle, the next time you're in a fight with your wife and your body's screaming at you to act in a certain way, you can go, oh, I don't actually have to listen to that. I can act from a place of wisdom, even if my body's screaming at me that I want to yell or I want to run or I want to fight.
Yeah, it's just we're forced into the situation now where we've got to simulate some things, that kind of sucks, I guess. But you know what is worse is sleeping outside and running from fucking bears. Mm-hmm. You can find a couple hours a week, I think, to not have to run from bears. It seems like a pretty good exchange to me. And then, back to the point here, we're talking about becoming the most resilient we can, both physically and let's say mentally / spiritually, which in my opinion are not different things. I know we think of them as three separate things, but I don't think they are. I think mental and spiritual are the same thing.
I agree.
But this is the preparedness part, all this information you need to know to make sure that you're a functioning man and that you can detect stuff inside your sphere of influence, especially with your woman and your children, and address those things as the kind of man you need to be. And then there's the selection part. I think the selection part is more of a problem with women than it is with men. A lot of it has to do with the birth control stuff. We've seen all these studies now. Women go on birth control. They marry some effeminate dude, and then they come off birth control to have kids, and then they have the kid, and their hormones are getting back to normal now, and they're like, oh, this guy's a fucking pussy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's a problem. And then just divorce, or it's just less common than even divorce, I think, is just staying in the marriage that sucks for a long time, right?
Or for as long as you can.
As long as you can, yeah.
Yeah, which is usually not forever.
Yeah. So there's like the preparedness part, the selection part as well that you have to deal with, and then the resilience part, or persistence, or whatever you want to call it, comes as a result of those other things, right? So you've got this new book, Divorce Proof Man, and there's 9 laws to own your role, win back her respect, and unlock lasting love. And this is kind of, I think, a big part of it's like the culmination, I guess, of the Sovereign Man. This book is like, here are the lessons that I've learned. Here's how you can do it the right way. You know what I mean? And then save your relationship, but not just save it. Like, you don't want to tread water. You want to fucking be elite at everything you do. So tell me about the book.
Yeah, well, that's part of why we wrote it is, when Whitney and I were going through a hard time, when we decided to get back together, I wasn't, like, if I'm honest, like, I wasn't aiming at having an amazing marriage. I was like, hey, I would love to be married to Whitney if we can just, like, have a functional, enjoyable marriage. And then we got to this place that was like this insane level of connection. And like the amount of joy that Whitney brings me every day is unimaginable to me 6-7 years ago. And there's kind of 2 components, right? There's the relationship, understanding women, understanding polarity, and then there's the who you are as a man. And honestly, the who you are as a man is way more important, and that's what we work on more in our coaching programs. But this book specifically, in the last couple of years, we've saved well over 500 marriages, and we tend to get clients. We don't get clients who are like, their marriage is okay, but they want to improve it. We do get some of those. By and large, we get clients who've been served divorce papers, who are living separately. She started dating somebody else. And of those, 500 clients that we worked with to save their marriage, like, these are the 9 things that I found move the needle most. And what they are, again, it's not the transformative internal masculinity work, which is honestly more important. It's the intellectual concepts you have to know just to be able to relate to a woman effectively. And if you know these 9 concepts, the next time you're in a fight, the next time she's pulling away, the next time you're getting resentful, you can go, oh, I actually understand why this is happening now. And I know what to do and how to handle this to resolve it so that our disconnect doesn't build over the next year, but our disconnect disappears in 5 minutes and we end up being way more connected. And another thing that, I was mentioning the guys who go through the fights and they learn to enjoy it and kind of laugh at it. What happens, which is even more fun for them, is they learn, like, hey, if I handle these moments of emotional intensity really well and I give her the gift of the masculine in those moments, there's a very good chance we're going to have the best sex we've ever had that night, or we're going to have really, really good sex. And, you'd mentioned, kind of infantilizing women or guys who go into victim mode and they say, all women are this way or women are the problem. There's a whole bunch of reasons why that's wrong. But the way to think about it is, in my view, I can whine that somebody else is not behaving the way that I want them to, which makes me disempowered, which makes me a victim, which makes me unable to change a circumstance. Or I can say, what can I do in this circumstance? And when you do that in any domain of your life, you learn very quickly you have way more control than you thought. And what you learn is, this is not like women being lesser than men or women being, whatever. What you learn is that the feminine is an unbelievable gift. But if you really want the feminine to flourish, you have to give her the gift of the masculine first.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And that is a gift.
For every time, whether I know that I'm doing it or not, that I make this woman feel taken care of, whether it's safe or provided for or whatever, there's something that she does for me. Right. And you just start to, I would encourage people to start to notice that. Like, so you're not going to see, you don't always see immediate feedback. She's having a fucking tiff of some sort, whether it's internal or external, and you handle that situation, or you're just doing day-to-day maintenance and you may not immediately see, I don't want to say the benefit because that's not the point, right? But you don't immediately see the feedback from it, but you will see it. If you pay attention, you'll see it. You'll see, like, even if it's just a better attitude, but usually it's beyond that. Usually it's like, I was complaining about something the other day, like, fuck, I don't have time to go do this thing, and all of a sudden it's done, right? Like, I don't have time to, fuck, I need to go buy this thing tomorrow. Shit, I don't have time, I have to do it next week. And then you get home that day and it's already done for you, right? I experience that kind of shit all the time. And that's like, you should reward the kind of behavior that you want. Right. And when I say reward, I don't just mean like give her a treat, because that would be weird, although it would be kind of funny, depending on what you mean by treat. But yeah, you should definitely reward that kind of behavior. So how does the woman want to be rewarded in that scenario? You got to figure that out, because it's not always the same, but it's going to be close, right?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's absolutely true. One of the things I teach my men all the time is, you're going to get a delayed reaction, a delayed gratitude, delayed change. Like you're going to make these changes, you're going to show up in a different way. She might not indicate at all that she's noticed any of it.
Yeah.
Like if I do something nice for you, you're probably gonna be like, hey, thanks dude, I owe you one.
Yeah.
She might not even say anything.
Because we're men and we just say what we're fucking thinking.
Yeah, it's very straightforward. It's very simple. That's why gay marriage has such a low divorce rate.
Yeah.
Right. And to all the victim men out there, the bitter men brigade who think women are such an enormous
Is that what
problem.
we're calling them? I'm going to write that down.
Bitter men. That's what I call my comment section on half my videos.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, gay marriage is legal. And it's got a very low divorce rate, and your fights will probably be much easier to handle. So that's an option for you. But if you want to be married to a woman, you got to understand, whatever you give to her is going to come back to you, and probably in a multiple of whatever you gave to her.
Yeah.
But it is going to be delayed. And women are such a product of the emotional environment that you create. And if you're getting a bitter, unappreciative, unhappy, disconnected sexually wife, something is going on in the emotional environment that you're creating, and she is receiving that and amplifying it back to you. And if you switch that, it's amazing. Every guy comes into the program and they go, yeah, this makes sense, but you don't know my wife. She's different. Like, okay, sure. 2 months later, she's not different. Like, you're not showing up.
Yeah.
And women are so like, men, we have 20 times the testosterone women have. We can pour from an empty cup, right?
Yeah.
You can roll your ankle and barely be able to walk, and you still want to bring in the groceries for her, right? If she's fried, she's not going to be giving you a whole lot. But with men, you can also there's a lot of, immature, irresponsible men. They can be in a great place and they're giving nothing to anybody around them. They're taking care of themselves only. Women, on average, the moment their cup is full, the first thing they want to do is pour back into you. And they don't need a coaching program to learn how to do that. They don't need to read a book on how to be a good wife. They know exactly how to make you happy. And the moment they're getting what they need from you, they want nothing more than to give that back to you. And that's why we see these turnarounds with clients where, she'll have, one of the stories I talk about in the book is I had a client whose wife was a feminist professor, never made him a meal, believed it was inherently demeaning to do so. He started showing up in a new way. Boom, for the first time in whatever it was, their 10, 15 year marriage, she made him a meal. Before he was done eating that meal, she brought him a second meal because she was worried he didn't like the first one enough, right? And now she packs his lunch before he goes to work every day, right? She didn't do anything. She didn't read any books. She didn't decide to not be a feminist. He showed up in a way where she said, wow, I want to amplify this and give it back to you. And on average, except for very psychologically unhealthy women, they're going to do that when you start showing up in that way. It might be a 2-week delay. It might be a 2-month delay. Maybe it's a 6-month delay if you've really been fucking up for a long time. But it is going to happen. She's going to start giving it back to you. And she'll know what you need without you asking. We have to read a book like this to figure out what women need. Women do not. They know what you need. If they're not giving it to you, it's because there's emotional disconnect. There's lack of safety. There's something in the emotional environment that you as the king of your home are creating where it's not functioning properly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, to me, that is, it's such a gift, frankly, because it's not always the case in life that you are in control of the outcome of things. But in this regard, you are pretty fucking in control. I mean, again, it's not immediate, but there's a pretty significant return on investment for just doing, and not just for your fucking relationship, by the way. You as a adult human male out in the world, irrespective of your relationship with your wife, are going to perform better at literally everything you do when you do these other things as well, right? So, I mean, if you want to be selfish about it, which you shouldn't be, right? There's a story about looking into your own reflection too long, and you turn into fucking tulips or some shit, right? It's not a good plan. So what's the goal with the book, I guess? Is this just for men to read, or do you think women would benefit this as well?
It's for men. I think women might find it interesting, but they also might be offended by it because it's definitely written for a male audience. The goal of the book is...
what do you mean? It's like, tell that bitch what's up.
Yeah, like a less vulgar version of that, basically. Yeah, well, just being really honest about the differences between men and women, and speaking in a language where men can understand. Because again, when we were going through our hard time in our marriage, I probably bought 15 relationship books and I never made it past 10 pages because I'm like, okay, this shit does not resonate with me.
Yeah.
And this is a book written for men, so you'll resonate with the language, you'll understand it. But there's kind of two goals with the book. The second one, believe it or not, is to heal marriages. And I think again, I wrote the book, obviously, but I think this is the best single book you can read on earth if you want to heal your marriage. Because again, it's only the stuff that works from working with hundreds and hundreds of men in bad situations, getting them to a good situation. I've also been through it. None of this is textbook. But the real reason why I wrote this book is part of my larger mission in life, which is to heal men so we can heal culture. I think political solutions are great. I think economic solutions are great. I think, studying things at a sociological level is great. But I think everything comes down to, do we have healthy, strong, free, loving men in homes? Because if you do, then you'll have that same dynamic in your household. That'll spread to your neighborhood. That'll spread to your city. It creates this ripple effect with no logical end. And I think the only way we solve the enormous problems we're facing as a society is if we have strong, free, loving men back in that place of internal responsibility.
Yeah, that's going to be one that I have, to use the phrase, the Better Men Brigade on. Like, don't call yourself an alpha if you are whining about everybody else. Like, you're not responsible for what every woman does. And you can see weakness, the expression towards weakness socially almost always comes in the form of collectivism, right? Like, whether it's from the left or the right, or regardless of politics, it's always like some individual or group of individuals treated me this way or expressed their value in this way, and now I think that full group has no value. That's collectivism. Just be a communist and shut the fuck up, dude. Don't try to pretend like you're a tough guy because you opted out and took your ball and went home. You're a fucking loser. Yeah,
it's also a function of low T. Right? The lower your testosterone is, the less likely you're going to stand up for what you believe in a group context. If you have very high T, you're going to say what you believe. You're going to stand up for your beliefs, and you're not going to represent the beliefs of a group. You're going to say what you believe, whether they line up with the group or not. And yeah, you're seeing that on the left for a really long time. Everything is the fault of straight white Christian men. And now on the right, you're starting to see it happen too, where everything is a result of the Jews.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you had a wet fart. It's like, oh, the Jews again. Yeah, they're at it again.
Well, if you want to, I think that understanding the mechanics of things are really helpful. So, and not just in dealing with other people's behavior, but also in finding when you personally go off track. So from the left side, collectivism typically takes the form of some bad actor or another trying to weaponize minority groups against the majority so they can overtake the majority. It's kind of the sneaky fucker thing, right?
Correct.
So they can overtake the majority and ride that wave into power. And then, of course, because the diffusion of power makes it difficult to defend, I'll hold on to all this power for you. Don't worry, you can trust me. You know what I mean? And then from the right, it's usually some bad actor representing the majority group saying, hey, I know that we're in charge of literally everything, but that guy over there, that one that's poor and has no real influence, he's definitely responsible for all the bad things in your life. You know what I mean? So just understanding how that works, you can kind of insulate yourself from retarded nonsense, to be honest.
Oh yeah. If your default perspective on any problem that you see in the world is, hey, I contributed to this and I could probably act differently and make it better. Your beliefs about how the world functions shift so quickly, and your likelihood to blame individuals, to blame groups outside of yourself, rather than focusing on what you can do. Like, it's the collectivists, like protests, for example, are a really good example. They're not protesting and saying, hey, I really want you to pay attention to my 10-point plan to make this better. They're just breaking shit. And it happens over and over and over again in these collectivist groups. They're very intent on destroying what exists. They're not really intent on building something new. They're like, well, we'll get to building something new once we destroy what exists. And if you shift the dynamic to saying everything that happens on some level, I have a responsibility to do something about that myself, you shift from trying to break the things that you think aren't working to try to build something that works better. And in the long run, that's a far more effective strategy on like any level of analysis.
Yeah. I mean, just whining. When does whining and blaming other people ever result in anything positive?
Short term, it makes you feel better.
Yeah, but it just
feel better for 10, 15 minutes.
What it really does, it's nihilism. And what it does is gives you an excuse not to try, which is the coward's way out.
And it gives you an excuse to instead of saying, hey, maybe the reason why my life is not turning out the way that I want it to turn out is because of me. Instead, you say, it's because of other people. And the problem with that, and this is why it's so damaging to individuals, is that prevents you from even being able to look at the things in your life that you would need to change to move forward. So your worldview of it's other people's fault of being a victim, it puts on blinders to the problems in your life that you actually have to fix in order to get better. So you don't address the things in your life that are causing you to go down the wrong path. And the more that happens, the harder it is to look at those things because it becomes more and more painful. So the less likely you are to look at them. Yeah. And so your life spirals. That's, the Matthew principle. Those who have much more will be given. Those who have little, all will be taken away. Yeah. It compounds in either direction.
Yeah. The first workout after a layoff is always the most difficult. And it can definitely be challenging to overcome whatever fucking thing that made you quit before. That's very difficult for people. Not just overcoming it, but admitting it. Like and sometimes somebody else is responsible for something that's gone wrong. Sometimes it's circumstance. It's a confluence of people doing stuff that interfered with what you were trying to do, and that's fine. It's going to happen. It doesn't mean you should. There's still no practical usefulness in blaming them for it. You still have to get to the fucking finish line. You know what I mean? It's like it's some dude that was ahead of you in the race spun his tires in the mud a little bit, and now you fucking driven into it and it broke one of your tires. Yes, he technically caused that problem. I don't think there was necessarily malicious intent. He was just being an idiot maybe or whatever. But how much time should you spend, like you drive into it and break your tire or fuck your tire up. How much time should you spend being angry at him for what he did to cause that versus how much time you should spend fixing the problem and moving the fuck forward? I think is a conversation that a lot of dudes need to have with themselves, because I don't see, certainly it's useful sometimes to let that emotion out, a little release valve, yell fuck as loud as you can and say some bad words. But then kind of get back to the work. When I was a infantry paratrooper, and my rule for my soldiers was, you can bitch as much as you want as long as you keep walking, right? Walking fucking 15, 20 miles with 100 pounds of shit sucks, and everybody knows it sucks. So talk about how it sucks. I don't care. Just don't stop. And I think that's another thing. That's something that I want to bring it back to a little bit, because to achieve that most precious biological genetic goal, resilience is maybe the most important part. You know what I mean? Just never quitting. And being over the hump, I guess, and having established all the good stuff, all the good habits and values and whatnot, and the good relationship between you and your wife, it makes it look easy now. And to some degree it is. It
is, absolutely.
Right? Like to a large degree it is easy now, but it wasn't. Right? And that's the thing. It's the same thing in business. People see a successful business like, man, you're fucking lucky, dude. I'm like, oh, am I? Thanks. That's a weird way to congratulate me, but sure. But it's not luck. It's persistence and effort, and honesty with yourself, I think, is a big part of it as well.
Yeah, and that is the Matthew principle in effect again, right? Anybody who's built a business knows that when you get the business to a certain point, it's like it is relatively easy, and you get free time and you can do all these things and you make good money. But the only people who get to that place are the guys who can sit there staring at their feet, wanting to vomit in their shoes, thinking like, why did I do this? I've got too many problems to solve. I'm never going to get out of this. And if you can stay there for 5 years, then you get to enjoy the rest of your life, maybe. But it's a very rare person that can get through those 5 years. And it's the same thing with marriage. If you can do the hard work for the months and years it takes to repair your marriage or to build a good marriage, once you get to a certain point, like our worst fight in the last 5 years lasted maybe 2 hours. Like our fights, if you can even call them that, they're usually over in 5 or 10 minutes. And it is like, our marriage is easy. It still requires work. It requires maintenance. But it's very easy for me to make sure we get out on dates regularly, to make sure we get time together. And it's very easy for me to show up for Whitney in the way that I can. Like, I want to be, men are beasts of burdens, like you were alluding to earlier. Like, I want to serve my wife. Like,
be useful, yeah.
yeah, a selfish king wants to rule the kingdom for himself and his own enrichment, and a good king wants to serve his kingdom. And I want everything that I do on some level to be serving my wife and children. And it makes me really happy when Whitney's not in a good place. If I can be emotionally resilient for her for an afternoon when she's in a tough place, like that used to make me really bitter and resentful towards her, victim mode. And now when I get to do that, not all the time, obviously I'm human, but most of the time I feel gratitude that I'm able to offer her that gift when she's not in a good place, because I know when I'm not in a good place, she's going to do the things that I need to do to feel better about me, and she's going to be there for me, and she gets to give me that gift. And looking at a relationship as opportunities to share the gifts as the man that she doesn't have as the woman with her, and for her to share the same thing with me, the things that I don't have, it's a really enriching, beautiful way to live. And doing the opposite and just saying, she should be showing up in the way that my buddies show up when we're having debates, and she should take accountability in the same way that my male friends do, and she should see the world the same way that I do and have the same emotional stability that I have, on a 24-hour cycle. It's like, okay, you can have that perspective, see where it gets you.
Yeah.
And some guys try to have that perspective for 5 marriages in a row. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah. Yeah, it's do you want to make an impact, or do you want to make a point? That's how I always kind of phrase these things. Like, do you want to win this argument, or do you want to win life?
Well, and one of the ways I frame that to my guys is, look, if your 5-year-old son or daughter comes up to you and, whatever, really wants to convince you that her stuffed animal is alive. Like, are you going to get really butthurt and upset that she's not seeing logic in that situation, that your son is not seeing logic? Or are you going to be very unthreatened by that? You're going to be unthreatened by it. So, okay, well, are you man enough to stand in front of an adult with a different perspective and be unable to convince them of your truth and still be unaffected and still be unthreatened by that? Or are you like very emotionally reactive because you can't handle somebody disagreeing with you or seeing the world differently than you? And what I've found in marriage and teaching hundreds of men the same thing, if you can just be unthreatened by her not agreeing with you in the moment, there's a 90% chance that once the emotional intensity passes, she's going to say everything you want her to say. Hey, I know this wasn't fair when I said this, and you're right about this, and I just didn't see it. That's all going to come. But you're only going to get there to that place where she feels safe and connected enough if you can be man enough to not be threatened in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. Warren Farrell said this on Candace's show 6 months ago maybe, but he was like, we did these studies where we asked men and women if they would die for their partner. And they were both, like, women, I think, came in, like, if the kids weren't involved. If there were no kids and one of us didn't have to survive for the kids, then like 86% of women and 93% of men said yes. And then he reframed and says, well, then I'm pretty sure that if you can die for each other, you can listen to each other. It seems like a much lower bar, right? But it is quite a bit more uncomfortable sometimes. But that's the whole thing with being a dude, is being comfortable with discomfort. That sounds like a cliche, but it really is just part of it, man. It's like, don't be a bitch.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, one of these days somebody's going to write a book on dude stuff, and it just says, don't be a bitch. Like, that's the title.
200 blank pages.
Yeah. That's pretty much how it goes. Well, look, we're going to go do the other show here in a sec. Tell everybody where they can find the book. Where's the best place to go?
Yeah. So Divorce Proof Man, you can find it on Amazon. I think it's on most of the global Amazons, but definitely Amazon.com and .ca. And yeah, check it out. Buy it for your friends. If you've got a kid who's getting married soon, you got a friend who's having a tough time in their marriage or about to get married, you don't have to wait until your marriage is falling apart to buy this book. Probably be much smarter to buy it before your marriage falls apart.
Sure,
Because I have yet to share these concepts, these 9 laws, with any man who doesn't say this affected the quality of my relationship immediately upon understanding these ideas. And again, you're not going to find these ideas in relationship books and other places. These are practical, actionable ideas based on real world work with many, many men.
Sweet. And everybody can find you at the Sovereign Man on everything, right?
At _sovereign_man.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's on where's the best
Instagram's our
socials?
biggest platform, but we're on all the major
sweet.
platforms. Yeah.
Well, good. Thanks for coming today, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely my pleasure. Always good to see you.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening. This has been Citizen.